Well, guess what? The Borderlands saga continues. Stay tuned. Let's see what we can find out. Well, my friends, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. No matter where you are in the world, you know it is JJ and JJ's PC Builds. And if, just if, this is your first time here, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Don't forget about the notification bell so you know when I post the next video. And I do apologize to everybody about being late on the videos, but I ran into some PC issues. And I already explained it on the live stream. You can go ahead and watch it over there up on, well, I'll leave the link in the description to the live stream so you guys can go back and see what was cooking. But today we're going to be talking about Borderlands. Sure enough, I had to make a video on this because I've been seeing a lot of, how can I say, a lot of people pretty upset about the game. We're going to dig deep into it, and we're going to see what we can find out about it, and, you know, we're going to go from there. So, stick around with me, hang out for a little bit, get your drink and snacks, by the way. I got mine for sure, and it's ready. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into what we found. Okay, we are now on the Borderlands website. I'll make sure I leave a link in the description where I found this so you can look for yourself. But we're looking at the Borderlands 4 PC specs. And I know you guys are going to say, Jay, you forgot one big part. And I know I forgot the biggest part of it all, dude. And you know what I'm going to say. The big cursor, which I definitely forgot. So we're going to go ahead and just get it going right here. So now we got the big cursor. Now we can see what's going on. The minimal OS is Windows 10, Windows 11. So I would scratch off Windows 10 because it's going to, unless you're going to continue the service and pay for it per year. I think that was like $30 or something. I really wouldn't worry about this right here. I would worry about Windows 11. The minimal system requirement says that an Intel i7 9700 CPU or an AMD Ryzen 7 2700X. Minimal system requirements. Okay, 16 gigabytes of system RAM. The graphics card, you can use an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2070. You can use an AMD RX 5700 XT. Or an Intel Arc A580, which I'm kind of hesitant about the A580. They should have put B580 there. That would have been a little bit more robust. But they put it over here. So let's go to the recommended. Windows 10, Windows 11, the i7 12700, the AMD Ryzen 7 5800X, 32 gigabytes of system RAM. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about that too. NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3080, AMD Radeon RX 6800 XT, and Intel Arc B580. Now the storage and every one of them need 100 gigabytes of available SSD space. So, let's talk a little bit about the specs. Okay, looking at the specs, let's talk about it. The minimal system requirements, okay, 9700X, the i7, 9700X. I mean, if that's the minimal system requirement for Intel with the CPU, then you could get away with running, you know, anything from the 9700X and up. Now, looking at the AMD, you can get away with running everything from a Ryzen 7 2700X and up. So that means it should work on the 5000 series for the AMD, and it should work on 9th gen, 10th gen, 11th gen, 12th, 13th, 14th gen. So, just keep that in mind. So, if they're telling me that's the minimal, that's what I need to know. Because if they're telling me anything before that is not worth it, it's not going to give you a great gameplay, I can understand that. So looking at the minimum, see, everybody looks at the recommended and the minimum. You know, go by the minimum. That's your foundation. Go by your minimum first, which I'm doing. So looking at the processors, I know the minimum now. The memory, it says 16 gigabytes of system RAM. I run 64 gigs of system RAM, guys. And there's a reason why. Is because when they pop up something stupid like having recommended 32 gigabytes of system RAM, and I got 32 gigabytes of system RAM, you have to allow, just for say if that's worst case scenario, you have to allow at least 7 gigabytes of system RAM just for the operating system. So minus that away from your 32 gigabytes, and what are you left with? I mean, let's do the math. I mean, it's not going to be hard, so let's do the math. So if you got 32 gigs of RAM and you minus 7 gigs away from that for the operating system alone, sometimes I've seen the operating system pull at least up to 10. So I just said 7. It's a good baseline to start with. That means you only got 25 gigs of system memory left, and with 32 gigs being the recommended, that's not going to be enough. You're either going to need a 48 gigabyte kit or you're going to need a 64 gigabyte kit in order to play just this on recommended settings. Not a lot of people looked at that. They never look at, and let me go back to the main screen. They never look at the fact of this. What the operating system's pulling, what Steam is pulling on system RAM, and also too what the game's going to be pulling. Okay, when you add it all up, I mean, you could go all the way up to 40 gigabytes of system RAM just to play the recommended settings. People do not look at this as being an issue. Well, if the game's saying, well, for recommended settings, and you're running an i7 2700 or an AMD Ryzen 7 5800X from AM4 series, and you're running, let's say, 24 gigabytes of system RAM, or 16, and you think it's going to be enough, but you get into all these game stutters and everything else, and you can't figure out why. You know it's not your graphics card, because if you got a 3080 or a 6800 XT or a B580, that shouldn't be the issue for the recommended settings. So, and you got either a 12700 or a 5800X. That shouldn't be a problem for the system settings. But you got 16 gigabytes of system RAM, and you're saying, well, system RAM doesn't really matter. Yes, it does. Because if you don't have enough system RAM, then you're going to be starving the game. You're going to be starving Windows. It's all going to be a cascading effect. And basically, the game's barely going to run to the point where it's going to crash all the time, and you can't figure out why it's crashing. Well, because you didn't put in enough system RAM. Now, they don't say if it's for AM4 or AM5 on the system RAM. I would imagine that 32 gigabytes is all the way around. So if that's the case for DDR4 or DDR5, 48 to 64 gigs of system RAM will be plenty. For right now, you never know, in a couple of years it might go up to 64 gigs with a system with game requirements for your PC, for your hardware. So keep this in mind, guys. I know everybody says, well, Jay, you might not be right on this, but they're the ones that are making the specifications, not me. I'm not making the rules. I ain't got no skin in the game to make the rules for this. They make the rules. I don't. So just looking at this page alone, I don't need to look at anything else that tells me about the game. Except for, let me pull my trusty old phone up, except for what the CEO said, the game creator, you know, the main man, said about the gamers. That's why we're here. I'm going back through my notes because I know you guys like to keep notes. So let's just get to the crux of it all and see what's going on. Okay, so Borderlands 4 launched with high expectations, new planets, new vault hunters, and a promise of next generation chaos. But many PC players, gamers, I could say, the chaos wasn't just in the game, it was on their screens. So, yeah, it's kind of on the screen kind of thing. Let's start with the facts. Borderlands 4 dropped on September 12th, 2025, across PC, PS5, and Xbox Series XS. The hype was real, but I don't know. So were the performance issues. That's where it started getting to the point. Players with an RTX 4080, 5090s, and Ryzen 9800X 3Ds reported stuttering, crashes, and frame drops, even at 1080p. DLSS helped, but many felt it was a band-aid for a deeper optimization issue or problems. Then, here's the then part. Then came the response from Gearbox CEO Randy Pitchford. I say Pitchford, no, Pitchford, sorry. And it wasn't what players expected. Pitchford told players to get a refund from Steam if they weren't happy with the game. He said the game was optimized and that DLSS was the solution. When pushed further, he added a quote, "Code your own engine and show us how it's done." That's very, very bad, guys. That's very, very bad. That's unbelievably stupid, especially when you're creating the game to get paid for it and you want people to pay for it, but you can't code it the right way yourself, in my opinion. If that's the case and he's asking somebody else to go code it for him, then he's just asking for free money. But I'm not here slandering, Gearbox or anything else. I'm just here to state the facts and what the gamers and consumers are saying. So, Pitchford's comment suggests that the game was built for high-end systems and that older hardware simply isn't part of the target audience anymore. So if you got an older system, But I've seen other reviewers do videos on benchmarking with, let's say, integrated graphics, the 8700G. I've seen that. They said they had to go on real low settings, but it was playable, but it was kind of at 30 FPS at 1080p. So it's hard for them to swallow the pill on this. But here's the disconnect. Even players with hardware well above the recommended specs were struggling. That, I tend to believe that. But it comes down to it, guys. Doesn't matter if it's old or new. Everybody's struggling. That's not a hardware issue. That is a software issue. So, and that's what I said before. It's got to be a software issue. DLSS is a great tool, but it shouldn't be required to hit stable frame rates on flagship GPUs. And telling players to play a different game if they don't like it, why would you do that? That's not a solution. That's a deflection. That's a big deflection. So, Steam reviews dropped to mixed, Reddit threads exploded, and media outlets picked up the story. Yeah. Gamers weren't just upset about performance, they were upset about being blamed for it. Basically, they didn't know how to set up their own PC when it comes to the game, so the company is blaming them for it. I didn't purchase the game, guys. I'm just reading the storyline that's going out on the internet. I'm just reflecting what they're talking about at this point in time. And I'll get a couple stories down the road from people that did buy it, and they will tell me how it looked. And a couple of my subscribers are already telling me that it's already a DOA. And if you guys know what DOA means, dead on arrival. But the tone felt dismissive, and the message felt off. Let's be fair, launching a AAA game is a hard job. Optimizing takes time, and public pressure is very intense. So they have a lot of pressure on their shoulders to make this game right, but sometimes you got to understand with a game too, I'm not diving into their offense, but some games too are on the raw. So basically, when they launch it, they don't know how it's going to react to everybody's PC. Okay, they're doing it on one set PC to test it. They're not doing it on the millions that are built in this world. So they don't know what the fine line is going to be with the rest of the PCs. So, is it their fault that your PC doesn't match into the system requirements? That comes back to the fact of me telling you guys the minimum system requirements is to make sure that your system falls above that. Or make sure that your system is optimized and ready. Or make sure that Windows didn't screw up your operating system with the new Windows updates, like they did mine. And I have the proof. They did mine. And I couldn't take out that update. So I had to do a workaround. My workaround was on Windows. I'll tell you what, I'll save that for another story. Another video, how about that? But communication matters. Acknowledging issues, offering transparency, and showing empathy goes a long way. Saying we're working on it, building trust. Saying get a refund breaks it. Basically, it does. Just telling everybody, if you don't like it, go get a refund. Well, why are you selling the damn product? Why did you spend all that money to build a product that's garbage? That's what people are going to say. They're not going to want to buy it, and they're going to pass the word, and then it's going to spread like wildfire that everybody's going to go around the internet saying, guess what? Don't buy the game. So you're losing money. You spend $50 million to build a game, and you expect at least to get 3 times over in business terms of, at least 3 times over what the game's worth. So getting $175 million for the game, I'll tell you what, it's looking grim at this point, because I already know a few people that said they're not going to buy it. It's not me saying this. I'm just translating it. It's not me bashing the company or anything else. No. It's just me translating it. All people are saying to these companies is this, point blank: fix the optimal settings. Optimize the game for more efficiency, to be better ran on all systems. Doesn't matter if it's old or new. To be ran on all systems other than just one, and the one you use. Because that's not how the PC community works. In DIY for PC community, everybody builds their own PC in a certain way. And they optimize their PC before they even play the game. So to have a game maker say, well, if you don't like it, just get your money back. That's just saying, we tried the game. It didn't work out well. We want our money back. End of story. To me, guys, transparency is everything. Even on my channel, I'm transparent. If somebody sees something different or wrong, they confront me about it. They talk to me about it. And guess what I say in the end? You know what? I'm not too big to say if they're right or wrong. If I'm right, that's one thing. If they're right, that's one thing. But at the end of the day, we're all right when it comes to building PCs. There's no wrong way. There's no right way. It's just the optimal way. So building a game should be no different other than using AI to code your game and make it run like crap. That's something Microsoft did when they did all these updates. They used AI to encode and do the updates. So if they did the same thing with this game, then it needs a human touch. Not a robotic touch, because making you believe that this is the right way and everybody else is wrong. You can't tell millions of people that want to buy the game they're wrong, because that's millions of different PCs that's in this world. So if you cannot optimize your game to match every PC in this world, then get out of the business. You're not right for the business. So we've seen this before with big games, big promises, and big backlash. The difference is how it's handled, and they never handle it correctly. You got Asus that don't handle things correctly when it comes to the returns. I'm just not going to say RMA, so I'm just going to say returns. But and then you got different variety of different companies doing different things that are not sufficient for the public. They're sufficient what they think is sufficient, but they should think outside of the box a little bit and think what's more efficient and sufficient for the communities. Are they doing machine learning with this game? No. Are they building and creating its own backdrops and everything else through AI? No, it's not doing that neither. This has been created by these companies, these developers, to, it's a pastime for the community. And when they work hard and they come home, they get on and they play their game. And they don't want their game running like crap. I hear this about many games. It's not just this one, it's all games. Because they say optimization is not there. They don't mean what you put on that screen, to go into, setting up your display. They mean the game itself, like the textures, the lump sum that you're putting on the textures, trying to beat everybody else and put these high-end textures in your games. Somebody can take those same textures that you build and make it less of an asset, more of an asset. So basically, instead of, your assets, like even trees being like 30 gigabytes, or that's too unrealistic, but at least 800 megabytes to build a tree. And NVIDIA was talking about that should be down to about like 10 or 12 megabytes. Lowering the asset cost on the amount of space it's using to build that asset will make the game more efficient and without sacrificing quality. But, that's up to them. That's their build. But, guys, let me know what you think. Tell me your thoughts comment on this video. Let me know what you think. Because I really want to know. I mean, I don't have the game myself, so I can't tell you. But I really want to hear what your comments are going to be. And I really want to bring that up during a live stream with all these comments. I want you guys to just hit me hard on these comments and put out there what's going on, what you feel on your PC that's cooking. Is it the game that's cooking, or is it your PC that's cooking? There's got to be a happy medium somewhere. Especially when I see content creators, take and play this game with integrated graphics. There's something wrong with their optimization on the game. That's kind of obvious. Because if the game was high-end, then integrated graphics should never ran on the game. Simple. End of story. But anyway, guys, if you made it to the end of the video, and we do appreciate you, by the way, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget about the notification bell so you know when I post the next video. Until the next time and the next video, you know it is, and we'll see you on the next one. Oh, P.S. Don't forget about Saturday. We're going to have something cooking on Saturday during the live stream. It might be early, just to let you guys know. It might be early, so do expect it. And if you're wondering, I would say I would have to start around 8 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, that's Pacific Standard Time, by the way. But anyway, we'll see you on the next one.
Take shit, I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take